Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's POC Group webinar regarding ADONIS 11.0. We will be looking into the new features and enhancements. This release is the most anticipated and exciting update of our BPM tool, which we would like to present to you in more detail. My name is Pablo Roberto Struck, your host for today. I'd like to introduce today's presenter, my colleague and usability expert, Anthony Ranallo, who I will now hand over to walk you through today's topic.
Thanks very much, Pablo. Hello from my side as well. My name is Anthony. It's my pleasure today to introduce you to our latest version of ADONIS 11.0. All right, so what can we expect from today? Firstly, I will explain how we actually developed ADONIS 11 and what factors we considered in its development, especially in relation to user experience. After that, we'll jump into ADONIS for a quick live tour. And lastly, just as a final overview, I'll finish up today by highlighting and summarizing all the latest features we discussed. So we've completely redesigned and reimagined ADONIS. We challenged existing concepts and introduced new design principles. The user experience is something that we've always focused on. And when we're talking about user experience, by the way, what we mean is how an individual interacts, engages with a particular product, of course. So when we consider that, when we talk about ADONIS, again, our goal has always been to give our users the best user experience possible. So therefore, in the development of ADONIS 11, we asked both existing ADONIS users as well as new ADONIS users for their feedback regarding how they believe we could actually continue to improve their ADONIS experience. Just as an aside there, I would like to take a brief moment to thank everyone who supported us with this. Your feedback continues to be valuable and, of course, highly appreciated. So like I said, based on this feedback, we worked really hard to create new draft concept after new draft concept, consistently asking for feedback from our users along the way, until finally, after many, many rounds of design, improvement, and redesign, we finally came to a final version of ADONIS that we believe is the best version of ADONIS to date for supporting your BPM journey. All right, so now let's go ahead and jump into the live demo portion of the tool. I'm going to switch over to ADONIS here. So I'm going to quickly log in with our power user today. Go full screen as well. Perfect. All right. So as you can see, just after signing in, right away, we actually come to the start page of our design and document scenario. So what we've actually done is you can see that we've actually removed the scenario portal access page. So now users right away can actually start working on the models, for example, you last had opened or access your favorites. Also, you may have noticed the new banner at the top of the page. So this banner up here can actually be customized with your corporate identity in ADONIS, giving ADONIS a little bit more of a bespoke, more personalized feel. One of the core features of ADONIS 11 is actually the new menu bar at the top above the banner. It's actually here where you can choose the familiar scenarios that you might want to access. So for example, if we go here, you can see we have design and document, again, for modelers and process analysts, control and release for our contributors, and read and explore, of course, for the end users.
Yes, just a quick question, Tony. Has the navigation panel on the left with the model and object explorer, has it been removed?
That's actually right. It has been removed. We did away with the navigation panel on the start page, again, just to make the user interface a little simpler and more intuitive. The navigation bar's functions, though, like access to the news and task dashboard, they are still there. They've just been removed. We'll see where a little bit later on in the demo.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You're welcome. All right, so getting back to the tour, let's start off with the basics. So when we want to create, for example, a new model or object, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to New. So from here, you can see that right away with one click, what we can do is we can start right away with a business process diagram. But of course, we do have also here, as you can see underneath recommendations, some recommended models and objects that we can actually start with. So in this case, these are some common objects and models that we might want to use or we access very frequently. And by the way, that's actually something that you can configure yourself for your organization. Of course, underneath that though, as you can see, we have our complete list of the models, model types rather, and objects in ADONIS that you can use. So what I'll do right now, just to keep things simple, I'll just go ahead and click Business Process Diagram. And what we're going to do today, just going to create really quickly a very simple process, maybe a hiring process, right? So first of all, let's go ahead and give it a name. Okay, there we are. Now that we have that, of course, what I can do now is we can start obviously taking our objects from the object palette and placing them onto the canvas. Just before I do that though, I do want to mention that one of our goals with ADONIS 11, and I hope you can see, was actually to maximize the modeling canvas. Again, making it a bit cleaner, a bit crisper, removing any distractions so that modeling is as smooth a process as it can possibly be. Okay, so again, via the familiar drag and drop function, as you can see here, we can of course start off with a start event, right? Place it on the canvas. We can then name that start event, let's say, application, let's say received. Then we have our spell check, there we go. Then from here, for example, as soon as I do that, as soon as I have this start object named, you'll notice again, the familiar hover modeler pops up. We can then select, for example, a task from here, for example. Placing that there, of course, we can then name this task. Let's say, call it range interview. Again, saved by spell check. From here, for example, I can then choose, let's say, a sub-process. In this case, maybe you want to conduct the interview. You can add another task. For example, yeah, send confirmation so the employee maybe was successful and has been hired. Then, of course, that ends the process with an end event employee hired. So again, so the hover modeler and those familiar features are still in ADONIS 11. Similarly, when we're talking about if we want to actually maybe describe these tasks a little bit more, for example, if we know that arrange, interview, and send confirmation are manual tasks, again, going to the hover modeler, just clicking, we can actually convert these very easily to manual tasks as well here. Similarly, again, similar features that you might be familiar with. If we wanted to start populating some more information, for example, maybe adding responsible persons for these given tasks, that's very simple to do. We can obviously open up the notebook and they can obviously be defined again in the familiar way. You might be wondering though, well, where did the drag and drop go? Is that still around? Of course it is. You can access the model and object explorer just with this blue arrow on the side. So we open that up, that actually opens up the model and object explorer. And then from here, for example, again, very familiar, via drag and drop, we can actually add the responsible person for execution, in this case, to this particular task. In this case, it's going to be our recruiter, right? So very easily, we can save. We can obviously save our business process diagram if we want. There we go. Perfect, very easy. And similarly, of course, you don't just have to do that drag and drop into the notebook. You do have the option of directly dragging and dropping, for example, recruiter onto a task directly in the modeling canvas. So there we go, they've been added. Perfect. All right. So from here as well, just some other familiar features. We can obviously close our modeling explorer to give us, again, a bit more room. If we wanted to, we could obviously number our tasks. Very simply, of course, horizontally here, we can number our tasks. And again, something that you might notice it's a little bit different, but again, makes our transitions a little bit easier. From the top here, we're currently in a modeling or graphical view. We can easily switch to, for example, a tabular view here, right? Filter for our tasks, for example, and of course, to a textual view here as well.
Yeah, Tony, just a quick question on top in the model header. I used to see more information there, like a process owner and so forth. Is it still there, or?
Yeah, it is actually still there. So the model header does exist. It's just closed at the beginning. So if you want to open that up, all you have to do is click this arrow here, and that'll open up the familiar header. And of course, once you're done with it, you can obviously rehide it again. again, the point there being to maximize our modeling space.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome. Okay, so now that I'm done, maybe I can obviously, again, save my process. And maybe now I want to move on to some analysis. Maybe I want to generate a list of all my core processes, let's say. So how would I do that? So the first thing I would do is I would go to find. This is going to open up the familiar search function of ADONIS, right? What I can do though, what's special here is that, let's say if I followed a particular naming convention, in this case, CP being the name I denote for my core processes, what I can do, so I can actually just search for that, CP, go here, and that's actually going to search for all the processes that actually are my core processes. Of course, from here, again, very familiar, you can then filter down just to the business process models, of course. And if I wanted to as well, I can then maybe add some information here. Let's say I want to add, for example, process owner. And maybe, for example, yeah, last editor, why not? There we go. Perfect. So this is maybe a list that I want to generate for someone or myself. From here as well, what's actually a new feature is that you might be familiar with already, the ability to actually save our searches. So for example, I can save this search as list of core processes. I can of course give it a description, can hit save. But what's new in ADONIS 11 is not only can you make some of these searches public, again, you might be familiar. So for example, here you'll notice that this is a saved query that I have, the list of my core processes. And of course, make that public for other users. But what's actually new is that you can actually share this URL, share this search as a URL directly with someone. So that's actually a new feature in the tool, again, bringing them right away to the list that you've actually generated. From here as well, if I just go back to my main screen, you'll notice that there's also another benefit of having this search function here is actually we can not only search for our different models and objects, but we also have the model and object explorer open on the left-hand side as well. So for example, if I wanted to, let's say, search for the particular process, maybe let's say create new customer, of course I can search for it up here in the bar, right? Automatically filters. But of course here I could also select an explorer and it would also show me that in the models explorer as well. So again, finding information should be very, very, very easy.
That looks good. So that means that all the search capabilities can be performed together on a single screen, right?
Exactly. So it's now much easier to search over all of these 3 different areas, models, objects, and of course, the regular search and explore function.
That's great. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so let's say now that I found the process I was looking for, maybe let's start performing some analysis. So of course, to do that very easily, let's go to Analyze. All right, so hitting Analyze opens up the familiar reporting board. Again, one of those items that used to be on the navigation panel. From here, for example, let's just generate a quick report. Same thing as from previous versions. If I want to generate, for example, a RACI matrix on, for example, one of these processes, I can do that very easily just by drag and drop, dragging that onto, let's say, a RACI matrix in this case, to generate this view where you see your tasks on the side, the y-axis, your roles on the x-axis, and of course, how they actually interact with the given task. So are they a responsible person? Are they need to be accountable? Consultant, and so on. So the full RACI definition would be defined on this matrix. Moving back though to the last slide, you might have noticed, or rather the last page, you might have noticed that we don't just have access to our reports, we also have access to some of our dashboards. So here, for example, if I click, we can go to, we can see that we have access to the ownership dashboard and of course, news and tasks.
So this is, in the previous version, it was on the navigation bar on the left. So now I can see all the dashboards used in this view, right?
Exactly. So they're all still there, like we said at the beginning. They're just now displayed here in Analyze as well.
Okay, thanks.
Exactly. All right. So in the ownership dashboard, let's go ahead and click to open that up just to see what's in there. So of course, again, as from before, we can see all our processes, all the assets that this particular user is actually responsible for. We can also get a quick overview of how many models still need to be released with the pie chart below. And then if we wanted to as well, just to finalize the design and document scenario, just take a look at news and tasks. In case you're wondering, you can still, for example, assign different users tasks in the tool. Okay, so that's going to conclude the new and improved design and document scenario, but it's not the only scenario that we've actually redesigned. So let's go ahead now and take a look at the read and explore scenario. So again, navigate to the top, select read and explore. In Read and Explore, we have the possibility, as always, to define a start model for our readers. In this case, we have a process landscape as the starting point so that our readers can actually begin navigating through the process architecture. If I scroll down underneath, we can still see, for example, our last opened and our favorites. But not only do we have access to these, but again, just at the top, we actually have access to some other company information that might be relevant. So for example, if I select documents, we can see a list of all the documents used in my organization. In the My BPM dashboard in Read and Explore, here again, we can find a list of all the models, tasks, documents, and other objects that again, my role might be responsible for. And these roles are actually defined for the user at the top of the page. From the My BPM dashboard, we can actually access right away the Insights dashboard for our processes. Again, this is a feature you probably are already familiar with. So just hovering over, for example, one of these processes, in this case, the Create New Customer process, you'll notice that the option to access the Insights dashboard appears. We can go ahead and click on that. And what that's going to do is open up again the familiar Insights dashboard, but we've added, in this case, a brand new widget. So in this case, we've added what's known as the SidePOC widget, which is going to help us get a better understanding of the context around this particular selected process.
Just a quick question, Tony, here. I was just wondering if all the functionalities of the Insights dashboard that we had in the previous version are still included here in this new ADONIS 11.0 version.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the case. All the functionalities are indeed included. So for example, we have our process hierarchy up here. We have the RACI and input insights here as well. So the Insights dashboard is still behaving the exact same way. It is still pulling information from different areas, presenting it all in one page. But that also, in general, applies for the rest of ADONIS 11. All the features that you're familiar with from ADONIS 10 are indeed also, or are included rather, in ADONIS 11.
That's great to hear because they were very useful there. Just given that there's a different user interface, does it take a lot of time to get used to it?
Actually, not at all. It is designed to be the most intuitive version of ADONIS yet. In fact, based on testing that we've done, it actually took sample users no time at all to start navigating their way through the tool. However, of course, if you ever do have any questions, ADONIS is pretty well placed to help you out. So if you navigate to, for example, up here, the help function, you'll notice that if I click here, I'm actually brought to an online version of the ADONIS user manual. And if I just exit really quickly, I can show you again that we also have access to, from the help menu, we also have access to the knowledge center as well. So again, that's another feature that used to be on the navigation pane, but is now in the help function. So ideally, with these two, the online help and the knowledge center, you'll be able to easily get a handle of ADONIS 11. But of course, we're always here to help, Pablo and I, as well as the other key account managers here at BOC. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to one of us. Or of course, you have the option to also ask a question, for example, on our LinkedIn ADONIS community page. So this concludes the demo portion of the tool. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move back to the PowerPoint presentation just to give you a quick summary of the things that we looked over today, and also mention some other features that we maybe didn't get a chance to cover. All right. So like I said, just a quick overview of what we've covered today. One of the key things, key changes, of course, in ADONIS is that we have a new, more intuitive navigation. We've significantly improved the Explorer, of course. We've reimagined completely our scenarios and our dashboards. We've completely maximized and minimized distractions on our modeling canvas. Something that we didn't get a chance to see today, but I think is also just really worth mentioning, is that, of course, as well as it says on the screen, we have indeed improved the performance of our validation check. We have the ability to, for example, generate URLs for saved search queries. We have the new SciPoc widget. And again, something that we didn't really cover today, but something that I think is rather handy is that ADONIS 11 also gives you the ability to actually request a new password should you actually forget it. And last but not least, we actually improved support for the KPI modeling in the tool. We've improved the representation of the successor value chain relation, as well as improved ADONIS's performance in general. Thank you very much for listening. I will now hand you back over to Pablo.
Thanks a lot, Tony, for these insights into some of the new features about this new version, the ADONIS 11.0 version, such as the redesigned user interface. If you have enjoyed this presentation as much as I did, please make sure to visit our website. There you can find a lot more detailed information on the new features. You can find videos and much more. If you would like to test out ADONIS as well, you're very welcome to register to the community edition of ADONIS. This offers you a lot of the ADONIS functionalities free of charge. If you're a customer, of course, you're very welcome to contact your account manager to discuss a possible upgrade to ADONIS 11.0. And of course, if you have any further questions or feedback, you can always contact us. So we have reached the end of our presentation now. Thank you very much for dialing in and letting us, and in particular Tony, present to you this new version of ADONIS 11.0. We hope you had an interesting time and wish you a safe and pleasant day. Goodbye.